Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe podcast. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a fan of Attack on Titan, let me tell you, things are about to get uncomfortable. And ooh, this episode, it's got some spooky stuff. So Joe, let's do it. Let's get into this. Bring us in, man.
That was the longest sip I think you've ever taken, and it sounded real funny, too.
It's, I was kind of playing with how I was sipping the drink, and it just created these beautiful words that came out of my mouth.
That's a God-given talent right there. But you're right. So we're here to talk about one thing and one thing only. So Tall Girl, directed by...
You motherfucker. What did I say? This is my show, damn it. I make the rules.
Good bit. It's going to become a bit.
No.
It's a bit.
Oh, boy.
All right,
Are we going to have to file for divorce?
No, we never got legally married.
Who gets the podcast?
Dave.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah, it's in the Joe and Joe clause where it's like if the League of Joes actually ends up disbanding, only a non-Joe can acquire the assets.
That makes Yep, I remember reading that.
Yeah, we'll just give it to Dave. It's fine.
Okay.
But anyway, welcome to the Attack on Titan edition of Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe, everybody. Today we are covering Season 4, final season, probably, maybe Part 1, we're not quite sure about that, Episode 10. And this one is called a sound argument. That's what it's called. A good sound argument. So
you make a sound argument.
Yes, you do. Thank you, Dave. Anyway, it is continuing the flashback / present slower times sort of thing going on right now. So I think we also called that, or maybe said it once or twice in one of the previous episodes where we were like, yeah, it might be like one or maybe like 2 episodes of flashback or more.
I called it.
Yeah, I'm giving you props to you for that one.
You weren't doing it directly, damn it. God.
Well, I'm doing it now. Okay, gee, we're really going to have to go to couples counseling after this, aren't we?
I'm sorry. I love you.
I love you too. All right, moving on. This is, I think, the first episode without any real Titan action.
Yeah, and as I said in my long, drawn-out intro of me looking for things to say because I wasn't prepared. Spoiler. The main thing I have written down about this episode is it really made me uncomfortable. Uncomfortable big time. Like throughout the whole thing, at the end, I'm like, I was feeling really good about this show, and not good in the sense of like it's not a good show, but this episode, I'm like, my tummy hurt.
Mom, get the Pepto-Bismol. Yeah, when the to be continued end screen came up on this episode, my heart kind of lurched because I was like, wait, that's it? No. It was the weirdest feeling because so far every one of these episodes I've kind of felt it where I was like, okay, that's been the episode so far, and I'm not surprised when the end card comes up. But when the end card came up on this episode this week, I was very much like, I don't know, I was almost like angry. Where I was like, wait, no, give me more. What do you mean it's the end of the episode? Don't tell me to be continued. Get the fuck back here.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And we get a lot more background in this episode, I would say a lot. A lot of weird stuff happens in this one. And I feel like we're almost like moving into a new phase of this season. It's like I the first phase was the big attack and everything. Or maybe the first phase was, the first kind of 3-4 episodes setting up, learning about what's going on in Marley, and then second phase is the attack and everything. And now, actually, yeah, I'd split that up. And now we're in this third phase where it's kind of like, what's the next step? And Eren's in jail, and he's looking good. He cut his hair. He's ripped. He is. The e-girls are gonna love him. It's eat him up, my goodness. And he's in jail, and I mean, I thought about it before. He said it behind. He's down there talking to him, and Eren just catches like, like, I can leave whenever I want. Like, there's no jail. There's no jail that can hold me. And him and Hanji's interaction really creeped me out, because for the most part I've been thinking, okay, Eren's just been dealing with a lot of stuff. Like, he has a plan, and he's just, overwhelmed. Like, he doesn't know how to express it. Eren's kind of really creeping me out now, and I have no clue what's going on. And yeah, that kind of scene when he's in the jail kind of creeped me out a bit.
Yeah, I definitely concur. Where he's doing his thing where it picks up from last episode, where he's just telling himself to fight, and then Hanji is kind of coming in with a bit of like comedic banter, it seems like, but then also I think she's also quite concerned as to what he's thinking at the moment. And he gets very ticked off at her because she's being quite, I guess, humorous is the best way I can put it. She doesn't really seem to care about what's going on right now, whereas he's being very melodramatic, and Hanji is just sort of like, yeah, why'd you say fight 2 times? Do you mean this, or do you mean that, or maybe this, or maybe that? Oh, but what about this? And then he's like, shut up. But the confrontation between those two, when he reaches through and just grabs her and slams her up against the bars, like, you can feel. I mean, obviously it's a show of physical power, but you can also feel the power that he just has over them, where he's like, I am the founding Titan, so you can't have me killed because you need me. I am also now the Warhammer Titan, so I could leave at any point. I am here of my own volition, and never forget that. And he just kind of like lets her go, and then Hanji tries to play it off as him being a perv, trying to look down her shirt or some crap like that. But then, like, the next scene where she's just sitting alone and she's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I am in very deep waters right now. So yeah, the stuff going on with Eren, I am very unnerved at what's going on with it. But I also have some theories, I'd say. But I will get to those theories in a second. I think we should go over a little bit more of what the episode has got going on before we do what I'm theorizing about.
And I agree. And one of the big things we learned this episode is, after that scene, it takes a flashback to, the volunteers have been on the island for what, I think about a year now is what they say, and they've built a new port, and Yelena has the first outside world supporters of Paradise show up, and it's the nation of Hazuru, which is, they're portrayed as like a Eastern nation, so they portray them as like Asian, and they want to work and support Paradise, and that they're one of their allies, and you very quickly learn that it's not just out of goodwill.
No, it is money.
Oh yeah, they are. Their nation is not doing well, and Zeke has met with their leader in private, talked to them about ODM gear and the crystals that are underneath Paradise Island, how you can mine them and use them as energy, and they see that as like big bucks. But
big dollar bills.
They know that if they come just for that, no matter, even if you're Paradise, you're gonna be like, what the heck? Like, come on, man. So they have a pretext, but the pretext, wow, shook me, and is kind of wild. So our girl, Mikasa, uh,
Jesus
it,
Christ.
oh God, I love her. Anyway, um, we find out she's like a long lost descendant of the royalty of Hazuru. Um, what?
Yeah, I did not see that
What?
coming at all.
Crazy stuff. Um, which is insane. So that's cool. I wonder how that's gonna tie back in. We learn about the first time they're kind of talking about with Hazuru about the plan of, okay, how do we free Paradise, and like what is Zeke's plan? And part of the plan is this idea that, Historia kind of has to become the Beast Titan. Um, and nobody wants that. And they clearly show Eren being like, Zeke Jaeger can go fuck himself. We're not following this plan.
You're paraphrasing a bit, but yeah, that's pretty much what he says.
And, you know, come the present time, something changed. He's like, him and Zeke are now like butt buddies. And it's kind of weird because, and they talk about it in the episode, I think it's Jean and Connie. They're like, whatever, Zeke said to him, only the two of them know it, and somehow it convinced Eren to support him. So I'm interested to find out, like, I thought we were getting a clear idea of what the plan was a couple episodes ago, but it seems like there's a plan within the plan, and then there's another plan within that plan.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to, circling back to my theory talk that I was doing beforehand. Um, because obviously Eren does not want to put Historia in any way of danger. He doesn't want her to become a Titan. He doesn't want any of his friends to become Titans. That's another point in this episode where they're all like, "Who's going to inherit the Eren's Titan or Titans?" Yeah. After after he is like his time is up or whatever, and he's like, it's a cute scene where all the kids are kind of like kids at this point. They're probably our age, if not older, but they're all saying like, no, I'll take the Titan. It's like, no, I'll take the Titan. That sort of a thing. And Eren's like, shut up. None of you are getting my Titan because I don't want any of you to have to die in 13 years. So that's a nice little thing that he does. And so it's clear, at least even up to a year ago, Eren does not want to put this burden on anyone. And then a year later, he goes off on his own, has made a plan with Zeke, and is attacking Marley, bringing his friends into a fight. It's like almost a complete 180. But my theory, like, there are two possibilities in my head. Where first possibility, he's got a plan with Zeke, and Eren has kind of just lost all faith in the previous stuff. Like, I guess the previous ideas and plans that they had, and is like, all right, we have to do this in order to just survive. My second theory is that there is a more complicated plan that is subdued under a lot of other stuff that's going on right now that he has made either with Zeke or on his own. And right now he's acting this way in order to keep everyone at bay so they don't fuck up his plans, because I think I think he thinks that he has a way to save all of his friends and free the Eldians from Marleyan rule, or keep them from coming after them at least for a while, sort of a thing. So I think this sort of violent, you know, act that he's putting on, I think it's an act that he might be putting on, is essentially what I'm saying, because he has something else going on in the back burner that he doesn't want anyone to know about just yet.
He's pulling a Red X.
Essentially.
He's like, look, I'm gonna act like the bad guy a little bit to protect you guys, but in the end, it's all gonna be for you guys. That's what I think as well. I mean, but I also think there's a pretty damn good chance that maybe even he is just like, I don't know, that it could be he's not going bad, but like things could be a little bit darker than what we're thinking. But I support your idea. If I had to put money on something, I'd put it on that. But one big point I really wanted to hit on, and I didn't think about this. Like the first time I watched this episode, it just like I was like, oh, okay, that's a point, and it like kind of went away. Excuse me. But the second time, I had this really weird idea, and I want to run it by you. So, Historia is supposed to become the Beast Titan. And because we need somebody with royal blood to control the founding titan, yada yada. But in modern time, when they come back from attacking Marley, she's pregnant, and they talk about, oh, like it's this whole thing that like, oh, she got pregnant because somebody told her they're not going to turn her into the titan. We need her to sacrifice her life, and it's this really annoying soldier who's being really rude and drunk. But they talk about how the father. They actually spent a couple of minutes being like, oh, like the father is just like an old friend of hers who used to like her, and she kind of hit him up and was like, boy, what you doing tonight? But Joe, who do you think the father is?
That's literally the last thing I have in my notes, because I don't know why. I feel like Eren's the father.
Yes, I have it written down. I think it is. And because what hit me was when it was something Hange said about Eren like sacrificing Historia or something like that. I forget what it was, but
I think it's when Hanji is talking to him when he's behind the cell before he has his outburst, and she says like, I really believe that you would never let any harm come to Historia or something like that.
Yes, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, Eren definitely was like, girl, let me make a baby with you so they won't turn you into the Beast Titan. That will give me some time to use my big boy brain to come up with a plan to protect you. And this is what it hit me: if they have a baby, that baby will have royal blood.
Yeah.
Oh boy, are they gonna sacrifice a baby, Joe?
I don't think they're gonna sacrifice, because then the baby would only live to be 13, and it's not gonna learn how to control its Titan powers when it's 4.
Look, man, this is Eren that we're talking about. All I know, it didn't hit me to the second one. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why? I'm like, they're spending some time on this. I'm like, this has to be important. I'm like, it's not a casual thing that they just made her pregnant, and that they're making the dad kind of like this vague figure. I'm like, what if it's Eren? And I don't know. It's something weird, and even if it is, I don't know. That really made me unsettled. Just like, even just seeing Historia pregnant and it just being out of nowhere, I was like, oh, I'm like, this don't sit good in my tum-tum.
I don't know what it was about it, but I like how you explain it, where you're like, maybe they did, like, Historian Eren did it to give Eren more time to figure out a plan. Like, I feel like that might actually be like a legitimate thing going on. But then also with whatchamacallit, I think what put me onto that idea was the fact when they are standing around in the royal palace at some point. I think it's when the queen lady of the foreign nation is talking with other people, and then so you have Mikasa, Historia, and Eren all standing outside in the hallway just kind of chilling out for a while. And I like how Historia is like just playing around with Mikasa, and she's just like, hey, we're both royalty, isn't that kind of fun? And then in my head I'm just like, so the two like seemingly potential love interests for Eren are both royalty. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if Historia has actually ever been thought of as a love interest for Eren, but in my mind it almost seemed that way, especially in like season 2 or I think it's season 3, when they have that chat in the cottage and they seem to kind of like get on, and Mikasa's like, get the fuck away from him, you bitch. But then also, the only time we've seen Eren smile thus far is when Historia makes a comment. It's like when he's talking with Historia, and I'm just like, whoa, I'd almost forgotten what Eren looks like when he was happy.
Yeah. For all you hentai writers, I there's a story here that I think it needs to be written. So, if you're looking for a new one, I think there is some great material right here. But moving on, because nobody wants to hear about this. And Joe is probably like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he just said that." Yeah, I picked up on that too, where I was like, "Oh, I'm like, is this like?" I'm like, "What? Why are they blushing?" I'm like, "Is Eren, getting some feels for Historia? Is it the other way around?" I'm like, "What's going on?" So I didn't know how to take that. Like I said, a lot of uncomfortable and vague stuff in this episode. Um, and the other thing that we had talked about the last episode was in this episode we went into it having no clue what it was going to be about. I all the other ones we had an idea. Even without you watching the preview, we could guess like, okay, next episode they're going to do this. It's going to at least touch on this. But this episode really caught me off guard. And the change of pace really kind of messed with me. And another thing where not that these were like it's like not throwaway. I'm trying to think of the proper term, but there's a lot of important scenes in this episode that happen for like 20 seconds and then they don't get brought up from the rest of the episode. Joe, what's going up with Nicolo? He's looking a little
Sinister?
yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. When I first watched it, it hit me as, oh, this wine is poison, and we're going to see that later on. When it didn't come up for the rest of the episode, and I rewatched it, I thought maybe it was just the fact that they were drinking Marleyan wine, like they had to keep serving them, and he was just real upset with the people and like what they were saying and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like that might come back later on in some form or fashion or something like that. But it's hard to tell right now. Obviously, because they don't want to give away their hand just yet. But I'm not entirely sure. It could be the fact that, or it could be that he is, I don't know, secretly planning to betray all the Eldians, and they have been from the beginning. Or it could just be that he just really doesn't like this guy because he's being a dick and saying bad things about Historia and that sort of stuff. Or it could just be that he's displeased with his situations right now. I don't think it's that one, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. My first thought was Nicholas thinking I'ma kill these bitches. Because they are pissing me off. Besides the one dude, who was kind of telling the guy like, hey, like you should shut up. Like we should be nice to these people. They're helping us, and we should be nice to Historia. Like we've made a lot of ground. But yeah, that scene kind of creeped me out. I thought we were going to get more. I thought something was going to happen. But if something does come of that thing, I think next episode we'll probably get it. Because I feel like they weren't going to hint at it just to let it go. I feel like something's going to come of it. And one of the last notes I had was that I found the flashbacks really cool. Like specifically that scene when they're sitting in the train, and I thought it was funny how they're building the railroad, and how they're all mad at that it was Aaron's idea of like, oh, we can expand the island, but also expand our bodies or whatever. And I'm like, oh, so that's how Aaron got ripped. He was
Yeah.
he was building the railroad, and I liked that. I thought there were some pretty cool flashbacks, and with that scene with them talking about who's going to inherit the Titan, and then flashing forward to that same group of friends being in modern times in that room talking about how maybe they might have to pull the trigger and kill Eren. Whoa. That's intense. That's a big switch. And that was pretty, that was intense watching that, because I was like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm like, Connie's mad. I'm like, I would be mad too. But the fact that even Armin's like, yeah, we have Titan serum. If we need to, do the thing, we're gonna do it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a great juxtaposition to show just how much has changed in the last year. Because a year ago, they were all blushing together on a train because they were all being so wonderful and lovey-dovey friendship with each other. And now, Eren has become this rogue agent, endangering his friends, responsible essentially for the death of Sasha. So, you know, and also when they were talking about how Eren reacted to Sasha's death and how they're like Connie, I think Connie was the one that brought up. He was like, "What did he do?" He laughed, and I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't like joyous laughter. At least that's not what I got from it. He was like, I feel like he was laughing because he didn't know how else to cope with it."
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I wanted to shake Connie and be like, did you not see that, like, his face looked like he was about to murder somebody with how mad he was?
Did you not see that he was about to shatter his own teeth with the force of his jaw?
Yeah, yeah. He's like, I didn't get the jaw tightened, but damn right I'm feeling like it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you would like to talk about with this episode, or shall we
No, no,
wrap
there's
her up?
something I want to talk about.
Ooh,
Well, Joe, crazy as it might seem, I have some other weeb friends. I know.
I
It's
don't believe you.
crazy. And some of these weeb friends, I shared a funny video with Miss Thick Casa. I mean Mikasa. I keep getting that mixed up. I'm so sorry.
I can't imagine why.
Yes, and I was talking with the one friend who is, dear God, he wants to spoil everything for me, but I tell him if he does, he's gonna have a hard time sleeping at night. Um, so, he's talking to me, and I'm like, oh, did you hear that there might be a part two? Or like a movie? He goes, no. He goes, but that makes a lot of sense because um, they have to cover a lot. And I'm like, do tell. Not like asking for details. He's like, Joe, based off the pace they're going, there is a lot more. A lot. He goes, if they were to do it in this 16, they would have to cut out so much. He's like, so it completely makes sense that it's going to be a part two or a movie. Um, and he's like, Joe, all he said was to me, he goes, it's just beginning. And I was like, oh no.
Christ.
And
If
that's all I wanted to know, cuz I'm like don't tell me anything else. I don't even want to know like what you think the next couple episodes are going to be. Um but he said, yeah, like he goes, watching it's been entertaining. Like I know what happens, but it's interesting seeing it how it happens on the actual episode. But all the stuff he basically said, all the stuff that we think's crazy, basically they keep turning that knob higher and higher.
oh man, see now you're just getting more jazzed up for the rest of it. And if apparently there's that much more to go, you can't cover that in a movie, can you?
No, and that's what I said. Because he's like, oh yeah, if they do a movie, they're gonna have to cut out so much stuff. And I'm like, exactly. I'm like, and also if they release a movie, they're not gonna make that much money. In all honesty, like I know China and Japan are doing way better with the coronavirus than the U.S. is, but I mean, based off what I understand, which is very little, I think that you also get a large amount of income from the American anime fans. Um, and not having us be able to either A, buy movie tickets to go see this thing, or like buy it online, or like spend money on a movie, like it just doesn't seem the right thing to do. I feel like it would be smarter to release episodes, um, and to give you more time to actually end it correctly. So I don't know. I think it's going to be more episodes. I'm almost positive. I am officially putting my money on it being more episodes and not a movie.
Yeah, this is the Joe and Joe throwing our hat into the ring, saying that there is going to be a part two for Attack on Titan. based on just word of mouth of facts from other people, because we are too scared to venture into that because of spoilers ourselves. So that's us. Our hat's been thrown in, Joe. We can't take it out. It's in there forever now.
My head's kind of cold now, though.
That's fine. Just grow some hair. It's not that hard. All right, now, is there anything else you'd like to add before I close out the show?
No. It's just this episode was a curveball, and I am excited and really nervous about this next one. Because I watched the end of the episode, preview. I'm not going to say anything about it. The only thing I will say is that, again, didn't really give you much.
Okay.
And that's it.
And with that, I will say, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all of those things. And we will see you next week, everybody. A goodbye.